Hi, this is Rob from RobBennett'sPassionSaving.com. The title of this video is I know more about investing than John Bogle, and you can too. I love provocative titles, and that's an especially provocative title. I know from talking with thousands of middle-class investors that most ordinary people don't think they know much about investing. We all have to invest. Whether we like the idea or not, we have to invest in stocks if we want to be able someday to have a decent middle-class retirement. So we're stuck. We have to do it. And 8 out of 10 of us don't like the idea. We find stocks scary, and we don't want to spend the time to learn how they work because we find it boring. Excuse me. We find it boring. It's not boring here. It's not boring at PassionSaving.com, I promise. Maybe sometimes, but not most of the time. Don't think that stock investing is hard to understand. What you really have to do to be a successful stock investor is to focus on a few things, know those things well, so that you're secure, that you can't be tricked and that you can't be fooled, and that you can't be surprised. Focus on safety. A lot of people think there's a choice between safety and returns. And as a rule, if you focus on safety, that's really the way to get the best return. Because it's those big losses that set you back by decades. You can know more than John Bogle. I really do. Now, before I say anything else, I want to say I have the greatest respect and admiration and gratitude to John Bogle of anyone alive on planet Earth. The investing strategy explored at PassionSaving.com is called Valuation-Informed Indexing, and there would be no Valuation-Informed Indexing without John Bogle. John Bogle built the foundation. He's the only big name investing advisor who I can think of who really focuses on the average middle class person. If you were to ask me who's the smartest person to teach you about investing, it's Warren Buffett. And all the people who follow Warren Buffett are very smart people. If you want to do the best that you possibly can with your money, that's the way to go. But it's hard. Warren Buffett spends all his time learning about investing. And most of the people who come to PassionSaving.com aren't the people that have that time. They don't want to spend every weekend studying this stuff and every night after work. If you're just an average person who wants to do well, who doesn't want to sacrifice return, wants to earn good returns, but good safe returns, Valuation-Informed Indexing is the way to go. And we wouldn't have it without John Bogle. He laid the foundation. So everything I say is premised on an understanding that I have great respect for the man and his contributions, which are very real and very important. But John Bogle made a mistake, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's a mistake that pretty much everyone in the field made. Not everyone, but almost everyone. And the tragedy of the John Bogle story, and the tragedy, frankly, of the personal finance field in recent years, is that the people who have made that mistake have not fixed it. And the only difference between buy and hold, which you hear about all over the place, you hear about it on websites and radio shows and newspapers, and Valuation-Informed Indexing, which you'll only hear about here, is there's one difference. That one difference is buy and hold. What Bogle recommends says Stay at the same stock allocation at all times. So if a 60% stock allocation is the right allocation for you, if you determine that's the right allocation for someone with your risk tolerance, you stay at 60 at all times. Or if 80 is the right, you stay at 80. If 50 is right, you stay at 50. No! No, 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 don't do that. That's suicide. I can't go into long explanations of why people once thought that was a good idea. The short version is there was a thing called the efficient market theory. It was developed by a very smart fellow, Eugene Fama, economics professor at the University of Chicago. And Fama believed when he says the market is efficient, what he essentially means is that the market is always properly priced. And so this idea that stocks are sometimes overpriced, overvalued, is a misperception. And it's of no consequence, and you don't need to worry about it. There's a second school of thought, and that's the school of thought of another economics professor, this one, Robert Shiller, economics professor at Yale University. Shiller wrote the book Irrational Exuberance. And all of the investing information at this site is rooted in Shiller's thinking. And the only difference is Shiller said no, and he showed with research. None of this is just opinion. It's based on research, academic, peer-reviewed academic research. Shiller showed no. Valuations are very real. Valuations determine not short-term returns. Shiller agrees with the buy and holders. The buy and holders say you can't time the market, and that's why they don't change their allocation. Shiller, to a large extent, agrees with that, and I do. You can't know where the market's going to be in 3 months or 6 months or a year or 2 years. The research supports the buy and holders on that point. But you can and you must engage in long-term timing, something very different. Long-term timing is looking at the valuation level that applies today and adjusting your stock allocation to be in accord with that. Because the valuation level that applies today determines the return that you will obtain over the next 10 years with your money. And it always works. It's amazing. I have research that I published with a fellow named Wade Fowle, another smart guy. Wade is an economics professor with a PhD from Princeton. And I'm very, very, very proud of that research. As a boy growing up in Northeast Philadelphia, if you had told me that that research merits a Nobel Prize in economics. And if you had told me that, as a boy growing up in Northeast Philadelphia, I would someday be involved in a partnership that would produce that research, I would have told you were out of your mind. But the field was open for me because Shiller discredited buy and hold back in 1981. Buy and hold became popular as a result of the 1960s. It was developed in the 60s, the ideas, and it became popular in 74 as a result of the publication of the book A Random Walk Down Wall Street. And it was discredited in 81. But in 81, people didn't really understand Shiller's research. Most people don't really understand Shiller's research today. And so people sort of put it off, and they said, well, we'll get to that later. We'll figure that out. And then we had this huge bull market, and nobody wanted a new investing strategy. They were happy with what we had. And then we had this crash in 2008, this economic crisis. And now people are starting to think, maybe we should re-examine these ideas. And my entire website, I've been working on it for 11 years, explores the practical implications of Shiller's theory. Shiller is the giant, but Shiller only discusses theory. He does not ever address or to a very, very limited extent, the practical, the how-to implications, what you should do with your money. So that's what this site is about. Don't believe in anything I say because I say it. I never went to investing school. I never managed a big fund. I'm some guy who figured out how to get stuff posted on the internet. But I back up what I say. I back it up with research. And I back it up with argument. And I back it up with common sense. And I think you'll find, if you explore the materials at this site, that you can, with valuation-informed indexing, the research I did with Wade shows that you can reduce your risk of stock investing by 70% while earning far larger long-term returns. Returns large enough that you'll be able to retire 5 to 10 years sooner than would otherwise be possible. So it's an amazing, that's investor heaven. It doesn't get any better than that. And it's there today. It's there at the site. Explore the materials. Don't take my word for it. Challenge me, please. I've written to a lot of economics professors about this, trying to get more and more and more, more and more, credentialed people backing me up. And what people tell me all the time is they say, well, Rob, they sort of take me aside and they say, Rob, you're right. I know you're right. But we can't say this. Shh, don't tell. Don't tell. Why can't we tell? Because lots of big names have made their reputations on buy and hold. And lots of big shots have lots of money riding on it. And lots of investors put their retirements at risk on it. And it hurts their feelings to find out they got it wrong. Well, it's not going to hurt their feelings any less if there's another crash, which Shiller's theory says there will be. Excuse me. And they're even farther behind. So the kind thing here is not to put our heads in the sand and pretend we don't know. The kind thing is to have a national debate on Shiller's research and on my research and Wade's research and John Walter Russell's research. John Walter Russell helped us out for 8 years. I have his research here at the website. And find out what the truth of the matter is. And if we have a better way to invest, well, let's move to it, because heaven knows middle-class people need that today. I hope you'll explore those materials. I hope you will not accept anything I say, but you'll challenge me, and I hope we'll together start a national debate that will help millions of middle-class people to obtain far higher returns at greatly reduced risk. Take care.